After nearly 3 decades, the Mission Impossible franchise is coming to an epic conclusion with the final reckoning. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to sit back and catch up on all things IMF before it drops in theaters. When we first meet Ethan Hunt, he's up to his usual business, wearing realistic masks and pulling off intricate espionage operations for the Impossible Mission Force, or IMF.
Do we get it?
We got it.
However, he isn't leading a team yet, he's merely part of one. Under the command of Jim Phelps, Ethan and the team are tasked with traveling to Prague to stop a rogue agent from stealing something called the Knock List, which contains the real identities of CIA agents embedded throughout Europe. Everything goes well at first, but eventually it all falls apart, as seemingly everyone but Ethan is killed. When he's debriefed by IMF director Eugene Kittredge afterwards, he finds out that the whole thing was a setup meant to expose a mole within the organization. The rogue agent is fake, as is the Knock List. Not only that, he also finds out that he's the one that they suspect to be the mole. So he slaps some explosive gum on a fish tank and bails. A pretty rad escape. The debriefing isn't a total bust. He learns one crucial bit of info that will help him prove his innocence. The fake rogue agent was set to sell the Knock List to an arms dealer named Max, and the operation is referred to as Job 314. It doesn't take Ethan long to realize that it actually refers to a Bible verse in the book of Job, and that Job is a code name for the mole. It's at this point that he also finds out that Jim's wife Claire survived the botched operation.
What happened to Jim?
Wake up, Claire! Jim's dead! They're dead! They're all dead!
He then comes up with a plan, which he relates to the arms dealer Max in person after establishing contact with her. He will obtain the real Knock List in exchange for $10 million and the true identity of the mole. How does he do this? By breaking into the CIA, of course. No big deal. He doesn't do it alone, though. In addition to Claire, he also recruits disavowed IMF agents Luther and Franz. Though it gets a little hairy for a minute, the heist is ultimately a success. When Kittredge finds out that Ethan stole the real Knock List, he has his mother and uncle arrested in an attempt to lure him out of hiding. Doesn't matter though, because Ethan is already 3 steps ahead. After realizing Jim was the mole, he calls Kittredge from a payphone and allows the IMF to trace his location, since he now knows that he can prove his innocence. This is when Jim unexpectedly reappears and gives Ethan a bogus story about what happened in Prague. Ethan plays along and sets up a fake exchange with Max on a train, where he successfully proves to the IMF that Jim is the mole, and that Claire is a part of it too.
Good morning, Mr. Phelps. I'm not the only one who's seen you alive.
Things once again get a little hairy for a minute, but it all works out in the end. Max is arrested by Kittredge, Ethan clears his name, and he even makes a new friend in Luther by getting him off the IMF's naughty list.
To you, Luther. Being off the disavowed list.
Hey, I'm the flavor of the month.
The next time we see Ethan, he's doing a bit of light free soloing during some much-deserved downtime. The vacay ends up being short-lived though, since the ever-omniscient IMF finds him and sends him a new mission via some killer sunglasses. His mission is to recover stolen samples of a deadly virus known as Chimera. They were first stolen by his old friend, Vladimir, a disgruntled research scientist who was forced to create the virus so that the company he works for, Biosite, could in turn create a cure and reap monumental profits from it.
Every search for a hero must begin with something that every hero requires: a villain.
His plan was to meet up with Ethan and expose the scheme, but he was intercepted and killed by rogue IMF agent Sean Ambrose, who was disguised as Ethan and has his own plans for Chimera and its cure, Bellerophon. Ethan gets to choose his own team this time, which includes Luther and Aussie helicopter pilot Billy. However, he's also forced to include a thief by the name of Naya Nordoff Hall, who is Ambrose's ex. It doesn't take long for the two of them to fall for each other, which definitely complicates things a bit, since the whole reason Ethan's forced to include her in the first place is that she can rekindle her relationship with Ambrose and infiltrate his inner circle. Thanks to Naya's help, Ethan and the team find out that Ambrose only possesses samples of Bellerophon, the only samples that exist, and that he is using them to blackmail John McQuarrie, Biosite's CEO. He's not sure exactly what Ambrose wants from McQuarrie, but knows what he needs to do regardless.
So we go into Biosite, kill Chimera. Ambrose has a cure without a disease, and we're home free.
Problem is, Ambrose figures out what's really going on by using the tried and true IMF mask trick. This results in both Ethan and Ambrose breaking into Biosite at the same time and ending up in a stalemate after Ethan destroys 2 of the 3 Chimera samples. To stop Ambrose from taking the last one, Naya injects herself with it and asks Ethan to kill her. Instead, Ethan promises to save her and makes a very on-brand escape. Naya's shocking decision doesn't hinder Ambrose's plan much. He just releases her into the streets of Sydney in hopes of jump-starting a pandemic. He then schemes to sell Bellerophon back to McQuarrie in exchange for Biocide stock so that he can become a primary shareholder and profit from the vaccines that will soon become a worldwide necessity.
When your stock goes north of 200, which it will, those options will be worth billions.
But of course, Ethan isn't about to let that happen. He interrupts their secret meeting by punking Ambrose into killing his own best friend and makes off with the Bellerophon samples. A very John Woo motorcycle chase ensues and culminates in a fight to the death between Ethan and Ambrose. After killing Ambrose, Ethan is able to save Naya just in time before the virus becomes transmittable. Then they walk off into the park together, everyone around them completely unaware of how close they were to using up that sick time at work. Apparently, things didn't work out with Naya, because the next time we see Ethan, he's retired from fieldwork and in a serious relationship with a nurse named Julia Mead. Unfortunately for him, his domestic bliss is interrupted when he learns that his protege, Lindsay Farris, has been captured during an operation. She was investigating an arms dealer by the name of Owen Davian, and it's essential to the IMF that she and her laptops are recovered.
Normally we would disavow, but Lindsay may be the key to getting us closer to Davian, and that's a risk we need to take.
Of course, it doesn't take much to convince him to step back into the action. Along with a team that's been chosen for him beforehand, which includes his old buddy Luther, he successfully extracts her and the two laptops. Turns out though, there's an explosive pellet implanted in her head, and it explodes before they can remove it. Ethan is devastated and decides to pick up where Lindsay left off, but not before he makes it official and ties the knot with Julia. With the help of IMF technician Benji Dunn, Ethan learns that Owen Davian plans to buy a biological weapon known only as Rabbit's Foot in Vatican City. This leads the team to concoct a clever scheme to capture the arms dealer, which of course involves a face mask psych-out. After pulling it off without much difficulty, Ethan engages in some light interrogation on the plane. Davian doesn't mind it much though, and promises to kill everyone he cares about. This is when things go south really fast. As Davian is being transported to the IMF headquarters, mercenaries appear out of nowhere and attack the convoy. Not only do they succeed in extracting Davian, but Ethan finds out that Julia has been kidnapped. Davian then calls Ethan and threatens to kill Julia if he doesn't obtain the Rabbit's Foot for him.
Call me at this number when you have it.
Just wait.
Julia's life for the Rabbit's Foot.
Wait.
You have 48 hours or she dies.
Wait.
This is a pretty complicated ask, since Ethan is apprehended by the IMF and questioned about his recent actions, all of which were technically unsanctioned. Thankfully, Ethan's buddy Musgrave helps him escape and tells him that he'll find the Rabbit's Foot in Shanghai. After the team obtains it, Ethan is forced to tranquilize himself. When Ethan wakes up, Davian tells him that he implanted the same kind of explosive charge in his head that killed Lindsay. He also seemingly kills Julia after Ethan fails to tell him where the real Rabbit's Foot is. But it's fine though. Musgrave, who is actually a traitor, walks in and tells them it was all just a ruse to verify the authenticity of the device and that Julia is still alive. The woman Davian shot was just his translator. He then explains that he wants to use the Rabbit's Foot to start a war in the Middle East.
And when the sand settles, our country will do what it does best: clean up.
Ethan escapes, kills Davian, and builds an impromptu defibrillator so that Julia can first kill him in order to deactivate the explosive charge and then bring him back. Of course, she succeeds, and they head off to enjoy a proper honeymoon. Mission Impossible 4 Ghost Protocol starts with an assassin killing IMF agent Trevor Hannaway and stealing nuclear launch codes. As such, Hannaway's handler and girlfriend Jane Carter arranges for Ethan, who is deeply embedded in a Russian prison, to be extracted so that he can help retrieve them. Tagging along with him is Bogdan, a goofy Russian asset who isn't aware of Ethan's true identity.
Are you not Sergei?
It's okay, he's fine, he'll be of use to them later. For now, Ethan and Benji, who has just been promoted to field agent, are tasked with infiltrating the Kremlin in order to find out about a man with the codename Cobalt. This is who the assassin who stole the nuclear codes plans to sell them to. Things, do not go very well. Cobalt manages to blow up the entire Kremlin, and Ethan and Benji hardly make it out with their lives. After coming to and escaping from SVR agent Anatoly Sidorov, who thinks he's the one who blew up the Kremlin, Ethan meets with the IMF secretary and analyst William Brandt to discuss their next move. Turns out Cobalt's real name is Kurt Hendricks, and he plans to start a war between Russia and the US. Ethan also finds out that the president has initiated Ghost Protocol and disavowed the IMF. Still, he's asked to carry on with his mission and stop Hendricks. Ethan and Brandt then narrowly escape an ambush by the SVR, but the IMF secretary is not so lucky. With the help of Brandt, Ethan and the team arrange 2 fake meetings to secure the codes. Thanks to a double cross and other variables, the plan falls apart and Hendricks makes off with them. The only win is that Carter gets her revenge and kills the assassin who murdered Trevor. We also find out that Brandt is an ex-field agent and that he resigned because he failed to protect Ethan's wife Julia from a hit.
Local police found her body 3 days later. What was left of her anyway.
Dang, so that's why we haven't seen Julia yet in this movie. Thanks to a little help from Bogdan, Ethan meets with an arms dealer named Fogg and learns that Hendricks hopes to launch a missile at San Francisco by using an old Soviet satellite. The team then travels to Mumbai to gain access to the satellite, which is owned by Indian media tycoon Brij Nath, and thwart Hendricks once and for all. Carter seduces Nath and secures the override codes for the satellite, and Ethan manages to disable the missile mere seconds before it makes impact. Sidorov witnesses Ethan do this, so he knows that he isn't responsible for the Kremlin bombing.
Hospital?
Back home, Ethan reveals to Brandt that Julia isn't dead and that he was responsible for staging her death so that she could get a new identity and go back to living a safe, simple life. The movie ends with Ethan and Julia briefly acknowledging each other from afar. The next time we see Ethan, he's stealing a shipment of nerve gas that's set to be delivered to a rogue group of agents called the Syndicate. At a briefing in London soon after, Ethan is ambushed and gassed by one of these agents. Meanwhile, CIA Director Alan Hunley makes an appearance before the Senate committee and manages to have the IMF subsumed into the CIA, using the destruction they caused in Russia as an example of how they need to be monitored. Ethan wakes up and is tortured by Yannick Winter, an ex-KGB goon, also known as the Bone Doctor. Thankfully, he's rescued by undercover MI6 agent Ilsa Faust.
You can't stay. We just killed those men.
We didn't kill them. You did. I tried to stop you. You got away.
6 months later, Ethan, who is on the lam since he didn't turn himself over to the CIA, secretly arranges for Benji to help him track down the man who gassed him in London. They meet up at an opera house in Vienna, where they happen upon Faust and some syndicate men who are there to assassinate the Chancellor of Austria. Ethan thwarts them by superficially wounding the Chancellor, but he's still killed by a car bomb anyway. Ethan and Benji are then blamed by Hunley for the assassination. Later, Faust helps Ethan identify the man who gassed him. His name is Solomon Lane, a rogue MI6 agent and leader of the Syndicate. She also helps him steal a digital ledger from an underwater vault that contains the identities of all Syndicate agents. A pretty harrowing scene to watch if you're afraid of drowning. However, she bails with the list and hands it over to MI6 Chief Atwell back in London, who then deletes the data and coerces her into remaining undercover.
Precious few people know about your true identity. It would be unfortunate if we forgot.
Luckily, Benji was able to make a copy of the ledger before Ilsa left with the original. The only problem is that it's an encrypted virtual red box, and only the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is able to open it. They travel to London to meet up with Faust so they can make this happen, but Lane kidnaps Benji, who then blackmails Ethan into decrypting the ledger for him. It's all good though. Ethan and the team manage to prove that Atwell himself is responsible for creating the Syndicate right under the Prime Minister's nose. They also learn that the red box contains billions of euros that Lane plans to fund the Syndicate with. After Benji is saved from certain death and Faust kills the Bone Doctor, Ethan captures Lane in much the same way that he was captured in the beginning of the movie. Ah, poetic justice. Meanwhile, Hunley is so impressed by Ethan and the team that he convinces the Senate committee to reinstate the IMF and appoint him as the new secretary. A few years after Lane is captured, the Syndicate rebrand themselves as the Apostles and get involved with an extremist known only as John Lark. When Ethan and the team find out that they plan to acquire 3 plutonium cores and build nuclear bombs, they attempt to intercept them. During the operation, Luther is taken hostage and Ethan chooses to save him instead of securing the cores. An on-brand move that IMF Director Hunley appreciates.
You see that as a sign of weakness. To me, that's your greatest strength.
The same can't be said for CIA Director Erica Sloan, though. After Ethan and the team dupe Lark's nuclear bomb specialist into providing schematics for the nukes, Sloan forces the IMF to include one of her own agents, August Walker, in their operation to thwart Lark and the Apostles. She just doesn't trust them to get the job done right. The mission starts at a nightclub in Paris, where Ethan and Walker attempt to intercept Lark before he purchases the plutonium cores. They confront who they think is Lark in the bathroom and get in a bonkers fight that ends with Faust appearing out of nowhere and shooting him in the head before he can kill Ethan. They plan to replicate his face so that Ethan could pose as Lark, but...
Can you still make a mask?
I need a face to make a mask.
Sorry. I was aiming for his chest.
It's fine though, since no one knows what Lark actually looks like. Ethan shows up as himself at the meetup with the arms broker, Alana Mitsopoulos, and the illusion still prevails. Problem is, she only has one of the 3 plutonium cores. The Apostles promise to deliver the other 2 only if they are able to free Solomon Lane, who Ethan captured in Rogue Nation, from custody. Of course, Ethan and the team are able to concoct an IMF-worthy scheme that results in them recapturing Lane so that they hold all the cards. Major twist time. Turns out none other than August Walker is Lark. When this is revealed via a classic face mask psych-out, a shootout ensues and IMF director Hunley is killed. Lark and Lane then make their escape with the plutonium, leaving Ethan and the team to reassess. They eventually track Lark and Lane to Kashmir, where the duo plan to set off a nuke in order to poison one of the world's most important water supplies. This scenario is difficult enough in and of itself, but to make things even more complicated, Ethan's ex-wife Julia is there inoculating people against smallpox with her new husband. It becomes clear that she isn't here by mere coincidence. Lane arranged it so that he can have his revenge against Ethan. Whatever though, Ethan has an epic helicopter fight with Lark, while Luther and the team deal with subduing Lane and disarming the bombs. Julia even helps disarm one of them. As always, Ethan is able to save the world at the last possible moment.
How close were we? The usual.
There's always another existential threat waiting around the corner in the Mission Impossible universe though. This time it comes in the form of a sophisticated AI program known as the Entity, which becomes sentient and goes rogue, causing a submarine crew to destroy themselves. Basically, every world power in the game wants to obtain it and use it to their advantage, so of course Ethan and the gang get tasked with securing it before that can happen. The AI is controlled with a cruciform key, which is made of 2 separate parts. After Ethan obtains one piece from Ilsa in the Arabian desert, the team attempts to secure the other at the Abu Dhabi International Airport. Not only does it turn out to be fake, but a gifted pickpocket named Grace steals the first piece from Ethan and flies off to Rome with it. Ethan also finds out that his old nemesis, Gabriel, is somehow a part of everything. It's implied that he has ties to Ethan's pre-IMF past. Things get pretty crazy in Rome, where Ethan rescues Grace from local authorities and the 2 of them make a harrowing escape from both US agents and Entity agent Paris. However, Grace escapes again, leaving Ethan and the team to regroup and figure out their next move. They follow Grace to Venice, where they learn that she was hired by none other than Alana Mastopoulos, who already possesses one piece of the cruciform key, to steal the other piece and bring it to her. She plans to sell it to an unknown buyer the following day on the Orient Express. Gabriel appears as well and expresses his desire to obtain the key on behalf of the Entity itself.
And so the plot thickens.
Of course, chaos ensues, and Ilsa ultimately dies fighting Gabriel, a development that nearly breaks Ethan, since she was a good friend and sorta a love interest. All is revealed on the Orient Express. We learn that the Entity was, surprise, surprise, designed by the US as a cyber weapon. The cruciform key unlocks a chamber in the submarine that the Entity sank in the beginning of the movie. In this chamber lies a source code for the Entity, so whoever has the key has the power to either control or destroy it. We also learn that Eugene Kittredge, who we haven't seen since the very first Mission Impossible, is a buyer Mitsopoulos plans to sell the key to. Grace, who poses as Milana thanks to the usual IMF face magic mask, almost makes the decision to take the money and run, but she cancels the transfer at the last moment. Gabriel manages to steal the key from her, but only for a short while. Ethan bests him atop of the train and secures it before Gabriel makes his escape.
I got it. We got it.
After making a nail-biting escape from the train as it tumbles over the edge of a cliff, one car at a time, Ethan and Grace learn about the sunken submarine from Paris. Grace tells Kittredge that she wants to officially join the IMF, and the team prepares to go find the Entity and destroy it once and for all.